Warning: intense violence, graphic blood, and strong language. Hell's Prison. I had only heard about this place through a Google search. It was Halloween, and me and my friends wanted to experience something actually scary. Not just some bullshit place with guys in clown costumes holding chainsaws. We wanted something that would make us scream, and be on edge all the time. That was when I found a place called Hell's Prison. Supposedly, it was one of the most intense and terrifying places you've ever been in. The only reason I decided to try it was because if you manage to survive without backing out of the haunted house, you win $500. The next day, everyone came over to talk about what we should do. A few suggestions were thrown around, but no one really liked each other's ideas. When I proposed the idea to my friends, one of them, Daniel, said, "You sure about this? It looks like a place not anyone sensible would want to go." I snorted. "Come on, it can't be that bad. And besides, don't we want a thrill and not just some cheapo dudes in clown costumes holding chainsaws?" I argued. Daniel was a taller and more muscularly built guy with well-formed muscles and was exceptionally strong. He was 19, only a year older than the rest of us. Cassie spoke up. "Mitchell is right. All the other ones are pure shit. I say we give it a go." Cassie pushed back a bit of her hair that she had dyed hot pink. She fidgeted with the hem of her Metallica shirt and smirked slightly at me. The last member of our group, Levi, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, let's do what Mitchell says. I think it sounds nice for a change." He smiled, and cleaned his glasses on his shirt. He was the youngest of our group, having only just turned 18 last year, which made him just barely old enough to participate in this specific haunted house. Daniel sighed. "Fine, I guess I'll go. But if anything goes wrong, you can't blame me." He folded his arms. I could tell he wasn't a fan of the idea. That was the end of it. We went over to my computer, and powered it on. After typing in my password, I downloaded the 40-page legal waiver from their website. I skimmed over most of it, signing where necessary. It was only after I had just put my signature on one of the lines when something in the paragraph above caught my attention. It read, "By signing this, you consent that you may be subjected to extreme physical torture and abuse, and that the CEO and employees of Hell's Prison are not responsible for any injury or harm inflicted on you." What the fuck? I had just consented to allowing myself to be tortured. It was too late now, though. Finally, I reached the last page where I signed for a final time. Once everyone else was finally done signing their waivers, we got in my rusty old Buick and drove up to the place where this house supposedly was. Once we arrived, I observed the surrounding area. It was a hilly place, with hardly any houses nearby except for a few small cottages. The house itself didn't look like anything that torture would take place in. In fact, it had a welcoming feel to it. As if it wanted us to be there. Like it wanted us to come in and be trapped there forever. This place is the haunted house. Daniel snorted. That's what my phone says. I replied, getting out of the car and examining the house before us. It was painted a cream color and seemed old rather than run down. A big sign with elegant letters said Hell's Prison on it. Hell, I've seen a haunted house that only lasted 5 minutes and still looks scarier than this place, Cassie said. Levi didn't reply. He remained quiet. We grabbed our waivers and approached the front door. Just as we were about to knock on it, I heard a girl's scream. Specifically Cassie's scream. I looked just in time to see her being dragged off forcefully by 2 men in ski masks. Cassie - I started to shout, just as 3 more men in ski masks appeared, and grabbed us by the collars. I struggled against their grips, but it was like steel. We were forced over behind the house, where they tied us up with ropes. Read the waiver. Now. The man shouted at me, grabbing my waiver and holding it in front of my face. I look, and start reading. By signing this, I hereby consent - I start, my voice high-pitched. He kicks me in the back. Read it faster. He practically screams. I hereby consent to allow myself to be physically abused and tortured - I continue. Before I can finish, he laughs, and kicks me again. That's right, boy. And that's exactly what I'm going to do to you. Read the rest of it. But hurry up and don't fucking waste any time. Finally, I finished reading it, and nearly collapsed with soreness caused by his beatings. I saw Cassie, Levi, and Daniel all being dragged inside the haunted house by those men. The man behind me kicked me with the heel of his boot, causing me to gasp in pain. Don't just fucking sit there. Get a move on it, you bastard. I got up quickly and started moving inside the haunted house. As soon as I had done so, I was shoved forward, causing my chin to slam down on the wood floor. I groaned and stood up, and to my left I heard the sound of maniacal laughter. It was pitch black, and I could hardly see a few feet in front of me. Then, I heard a screaming sound that seemed too human to be played by a speaker. A cold slithering hand grabbed me by the neck and pulled me into another room, which was soaked with blood. I smelled something horrible, like the smell of rotting flesh. Dim lights flick on in the room, and I don't see anyone. It's cramped, and I don't know where I am. I look to my left, and see a woman with black hair and pale white skin grinning. Her teeth were crooked and yellow, and her eyes bulged out of her sockets, as if she was insane. Hey sweetheart, let me help you. She let out a twisted laugh, and tackled me. She forced me onto my back and pulled a knife. No. Please don't hurt me. I screamed. She cackled again, and started cutting my shirt down the center. I heard the ripping of fabric, as she pulled away my shirt and tossed it into a bucket of blood. Was it human blood or fake? Before I could process what was going on, she started caressing my skin. Her touch was cold like ice. Let me introduce you to Mary. She snickered and tied a gag in place. I tried to scream, but was muffled by the gag. She grabbed a small plastic box with a spider of some sort. Then, I recognized the patterns it had. It was a wolf spider. I started to plead with her to stop, but to no avail. The gag stopped me from pleading. She smiled and set the plastic box on my bare chest. It had no top, but she flipped it upside down, forcing the spider to land on my skin. She pulled the plastic box away, and I felt the spider's tiny legs bristling along my bare skin. It crawled up to my face, and then suddenly I felt a sharp wave of pain as it bit me. It had fucking bitten me. She took the spider and crushed it with a sickening crunching noise between her fingers. Then, she ate the spider's remains, and seemed to enjoy it. It was like a child enjoying a piece of cake or dessert. She licked her fingers, which were covered in spider's blood. She pulled the gag away. What the hell? Let me out. Please. I screamed, gasping for air. Before I could process what was happening, a strong and firm grip grabbed me by the shoulders, and hurled me into a walk-in closet of some sort. Before I could do anything, the door was banged shut behind me. My ropes had loosened enough that I could slip my hands out of them pretty easily. I pull my hands out and toss the rope aside. Hello, I said, my voice cracking. Instead of any insane abusive psychopaths, I heard a child whimpering. Are you okay? I asked. As soon as the words left my mouth, I noticed a little boy. He looked to be hardly 9. He was covered in blood and bruises, and was crying softly. He was stripped down to a pair of tattered underwear. He looked up at me. Don't hurt me. Please. He started screaming, crying even louder and backing away hastily. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise, I said. He looked at me for a moment, tears streaming down his face. He's coming, he's coming, he shouted, looking terrified. At first I thought he was afraid of me, then I realized he was looking behind me. I looked there, but saw no one. Who? I said. Who's coming? He started crying again. Then, the door to the cramped closet swung open, banging against the wall. A man holding a whip was there, and the whip was covered with blood. The boy immediately bolted over to me, burying his face in my chest and sobbing. I did my best to console him as the man got closer. Please, don't touch me, or the child. I just want to get out. I'll do anything, I pleaded, and started crying myself. Please. Anything. The man smiled, revealing a set of blood-stained teeth. You'll do anything. Yes, anything, I said. He grinned even wider. Bring the child with you, and come with me right fucking now. His tone turned serious. I got up, holding the boy, who was sobbing profusely. I said, come with me. He bellowed. I nodded and followed the man. I carried the boy, who was so skinny and light I could have run a mile with him. The man leads me to a room with a glass panel and 2 chairs. "Go inside," he shouted. I went in, and sat down as the door slammed behind me. Through the glass panel, I saw 3 blood-stained figures curled up in another room. One I recognized to be Cassie, and the others I recognized to be Daniel and Levi. A man entered the room, holding an assault rifle. I wanted to smash the glass separating us, but it would be foolish. The man aimed the gun at Cassie, who started screaming and pleading for her life with the man. He ignored her and instead started blasting her body with bullets, causing her screams to be even louder and more horrific than before. "No!" I shout, disgusted and horrified by the scene before me. Then, the man angles the gun so it's facing up towards Cassie's forehead. He pulls the trigger, causing an explosion of brains and blood to splatter on the wall behind them and on Levi and Daniel. The man shoots Daniel and Levi next, killing them instantly. The door opens, and the man with the whip grabs me and the child, and starts lashing me viciously on the back with the whip. I let out pained shrieks as the whip tore through my flesh, causing searing and extreme agony. Finally, after my back was torn to bloody shreds, he dragged me and tossed me out the front door, still holding the little boy. I started sobbing, cradling the little boy in my arms. I wished I had never come here. Daniel was right. We should never have come to this place. So please, if you're reading this, never come to this haunted house, no matter how attractive it might seem. There's only torture and brutality waiting on the other side of that door. After a few months in the hospital, and adopting the small boy who I later learned was named Jack, I swore I would never go back to a haunted house again. And I'll never let my son go to one either.